Too much of anything can be bad for you. So Dave Ramsey teaches us the baby steps. If you guys didn't know, we ended up paying off $114,000 of debt in 23 months. And we are huge advocates of Dave Ramsey.
The thing for us when it came to Dave Ramsey and anybody's philosophy or anybody that we speak to is we will take the information and tweak it to make it work for us, right? I don't have to follow it to the T for it to eventually work for us. And that's what we did with him. And so that's why we're not like anti him. You know, did we save only $1,000? No, we weren't comfortable with that. We saved a lot more. But it still helped us to guide us to where we are today and have some type of structure to get started in this space at least.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the More Than a Side Hustle podcast, where we help 9-to-5ers create more impact, income, and influence outside their jobs. And hopefully today's no different.
Yes.
My name is Anthony.
And I'm Janoka. Thank you guys for coming back for another Tuesday with us. Each and every Tuesday we are here for the past close to 2 years, if you will, or 2 years. We've been here showing up. You can watch it on YouTube or listen to wherever you listen to podcasts. So thank you.
And we know over the past couple of weeks, we've been asking you guys to submit questions. So we're recognizing that you guys are now submitting questions. So this would be,
Have we been asking?
Yeah.
No. We've asked for people to submit questions on topics they have for us to discuss, not topics for them to discuss. The questions we've been getting is very specific to whatever's happened with the person.
Yeah, so if you guys got questions that you want us to answer, and the thing about it is we're going to do a listener question, and this could relate to everyone.
Like Wendy Williams, Dave Ramsey, all of them.
This is kind of like, it's like the money and marriage segment. And this actually kind of goes back to some of our roots. So you guys know we are huge advocates of Dave Ramsey and his following. And Janoka wasn't sure we was going to get into this topic. But I did want to talk about is Dave Ramsey holding some of us back.
Holding us back? From what?
Holding us back. So I think that when we first started...
maybe you need to preface what he teaches, because I don't know if everybody knows. So
is Dave Ramsey teachings, can Dave Ramsey's teachings hold you back?
Okay. Anything can hold you back in life.
Anything can hold you back. I think too much of anything is a bad thing. If you drink too much water, you could pretty much drown your insides. But... Too much of anything can be bad for you. So Dave Ramsey teaches us the baby steps. If you guys didn't know, we ended up paying off $114,000 of debt in 23 months. And we are huge advocates of Dave Ramsey.
No, I was just going to say this relates to the question that we were asked that somebody emailed to us. So it will all circle back and make sense.
So we're huge advocates of Dave Ramsey and the baby step. So baby step one is...
Do you remember those?
He tells you to save $1,000 for an emergency fund, right? So that's the first thing. Save $1,000 and you start focusing on your debt. Start focusing on, do you do your emergency fund? Once you build your emergency fund to 3 to 6 months, and then you start focusing on your house, stuff like that. Like those are the baby steps. Right.
And people have issues with some of it, but the reality is, I don't even have the exact stat, but more than half of America doesn't have $500 or $1,000 for an emergency. So maybe you're like, oh, 1,000 is nothing, which for us, that felt like a really small number too. But most people in the country that we live in do not have that available. So I understand the thought of starting there at least. The thing for us when it came to Dave Ramsey and anybody's philosophy or anybody that we speak to is we will take the information and tweak it to make it work for us, right? I don't have to follow it to the T for it to eventually work for us. And that's what we did with him. And so that's why we're not like anti him. Do we save only $1,000? No, we weren't comfortable with that. We saved a lot more, but it still helped us to guide us to where we are today and have some type of structure to get started in this space at least.
I think the problem is a lot of people kind of jump the gun. So it's okay to tweak something, but if it works, don't touch if it's a recipe that works, you got to kind of go in there and say, oh, let me add my little sugar, let me add my spice, and you mess up the whole recipe. You kind of stuck where you started. Right, so don't jump the gun where you're saying that instead of me saving $1,000, I'm just going to skip that step and start paying off debt, and then an emergency happens and you're kind of back to ground zero. So I tell people all the time, it's okay to tweak things to what works for you, but don't think that what you're doing is going to be better than what the original guidance was. Because we'll even get students at Clean Business University and say, oh, I kind of tweaked this and I kind of tweaked that, but it didn't need tweaking because it worked. It worked for thousands of people, but then you decided that you're going to come in and add your old flavor to it, add your old sauce, but the recipe is still the same.
Yeah.
So don't jump the gun trying to add your own remixes into something unless you're following the basic guidelines of what the person's teaching.
Yeah.
So step 1, save $1,000, start an emergency fund. Step 2, pay off all debt. Step 3 is save 36 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund. Step 4 is invest 15% of your household income into retirement. Step 5 is save for your children's college fund. Step 6, pay off your home early. Step 7, build wealth and give. Now, I absolutely love those baby steps. I think it's an amazing outline, and I think more of us do need to follow it. Now,
especially if you don't have no guidance anywhere else. What else are you following?
Exactly. We just winging it. We using our credit cards. We thinking we getting all the Amex points. We getting to the Sky Lounge, and you're just putting
Another
yourself.
Stat.
People don't pay off credit cards monthly.
I don't care for everyone.
I don't care what your friends say, what your family say, what Twitter and social media says. People are not even paying off their credit cards every single month. That's what actually put us into going towards the debt freedom route. Is that we had a Christmas where we had to dig into our savings to pay off our credit card. And we said, we don't want to do that. So we started let's focus on this debt journey. So sometimes these steps are there to literally guide you along the way. But then we find that sometimes if you take them too literal, you kind of get stuck in
if you take it too literal, you get stuck on reasons why you shouldn't do it probably, or reasons why it doesn't make sense for me. And it's just get started on something, tweak it as you go along if it's needed, and see where it takes you. And if you want to hear more about our debt-free story, we had a full episode on this now. The exact number will be in the show notes because I don't have it off the top of my head. But it's definitely one of our earlier episodes. We spoke in detail of how we were able to get out of debt using Dave Ramsey's strategies and raising our income essentially, which is different from his strategies. Let's be clear. He speaks a lot more of cutting back, but we decided to raise our income while still using some of his steps. So we do have an episode of that, and we'll put that in the show notes.
Well, I don't think our strategy was different from his. Our focus was different than his. So he talks about
different strategy.
He tells you to get another job. He tells you to raise your income, but that's just not the focus because most people, they're stuck on their biggest challenge is their spending.
And that wasn't a huge thing for us.
So if you're I get my spending habits in line, I understand my budget, I'm now managing my money. What is the next logical step for me? To try to go out and make more money. So that's kind of that was our focus during our debt freedom journey. So we did have a listener question around their journey and what they're doing. And it kind of just reminded me of the Dave Ramsey baby steps. So we wanted to
touch on that. Give a baseline of what it was.
Baseline of what it is and why sometimes the baby steps can leave you stuck if you follow it too closely.
So
and if you guys submit any questions, we won't
say your name.
Say your name. We'll try to edit out some of the obviously information that people be listening I know that's so and so, even though it's thousands of listeners. So
yeah, but we got the green light as well. So, but either way, John said he's been following us for a while since we've been on the morning meetup, which we've been on that maybe 3-4 times in the past 2-3 years. Him and his wife, they also have a podcast and some other things going on. So just had a few questions. They find our cleaning business very attractive, especially the part about running the business but not cleaning the homes. They have a podcast, eBooks, another podcast with someone else, and they're also doing some coaching. They want to know, would we advise starting the cleaning business while doing all these other things? Will it be too much, or does it take minimal effort? So what are your thoughts on that? Should they start it with all they have going on, or hold off?
So what do they have? Let's first, we have to break it down I have to break it down to understand it. So they have a podcast, they have ebooks that they're about to release, and they have separate podcasts.
She has 2 podcasts.
She has a podcast and they're about to do coaching. Would you advise starting a business while doing all these other things? So
this business, not a business. They're talking about.
So would you start would we recommend you starting your remote cleaning business in the middle of all the other things you have going on?
So I think we recently had this conversation somewhere. We don't, and maybe it's just our life, but we don't feel like life ever slows down. So it's more of making a decision on, am I willing to do it during this time? Because yes, you may say there may be busier seasons than others. For example, it's the holidays. You may be traveling, all these other things that go into it, right? However, there's something that's always going to pop up. There's something that is always going to pop up. Every month of this year, I can tell you we've been busy. Every week of this year, I can tell you we've been busy. To record a podcast, to do a live, to do anything. Sometimes it's 9 o'clock at night after we just spent a full day, me at my 9 to 5, then Alani, and then this. So it's all in what you're wanting to do. During the time where we were trying to decrease our debt, you were doing a lot. Granted, at the time, I don't see any mention of no kids here, but granted at the time, There is a mention. At the time, we didn't have any kids, so we had a bit more flexibility to do more, right? But it was the 9 to 5, then it was being at the gym for a 5 to 10, and then we had the cleaning business, and then the other side hustles that we were doing. We're retired? Absolutely. So I think it's just really figuring out how can I fit it into the season if it's something that I really want to do. That would be my question. That would be my statement, sorry.
In life, we all go through those busy seasons, and as adults, you never get unbusy. You always gonna have a busy season as an adult.
Right.
But in this case, I would personally say that this would not be the time to do it. Now, I say that because if they already have, I want to break down what they have going on right now. So they said they have other businesses, but not cleaning.
Well, it said eBooks. To me, eBooks run on its own. Sorry, it just sells. So what do you need to do with that specifically?
So my first question about the eBooks and that they're about to release. If you have an ebook or you have a digital product or you have some sort of product, my question is always going to be, why not dive into that thing a lot more versus trying to pivot to something else? So to me, that means that it's not making enough money.
Okay.
Or is at the point where it's so autopilot, there is no more money you can make in that thing. You're making all this money and it's not doing anything else for you, right? So there's two extremes. But if you're writing to us, you're probably not on that extreme where it's like overflow of money. So that would be the first thing. If you could sit down and look at that ebook and decide, okay, you're about to re-release this thing. Can we raise the price? Can we add a coaching component? Can we add a structured component as a community? How many more revenue streams can we create from this one thing versus starting something completely different?
Right.
That's the first thing I would ask myself if I was in this situation.
Right.
So if we're going to re-release that, I would dive into that. She has a podcast with someone else.
So there's two podcasts. They have a podcast together, and then she has this with someone else. So she is, listen, the amount of times it takes us to do this podcast, doing 2 podcasts, and you got to get with somebody else's schedule, she's booked and busy. Okay, I don't know how often the podcasts are coming out. I don't know if it's weekly, daily. I don't know what either of their podcasts look like. But if it's anything like this, being weekly, that is a lot.
So then my second part for that would be, which one is generating any income? And if, let's say both of them are either generating the same amount of income, same amount of effort, or no money at all. So my question would be, which one would you be able to use to drive towards the ebook sales? So I don't know if her podcast with somebody else is about that or what, or if their podcast together is about that. So now I'm going to say, if both of them are generating no money at all, or they're generating the same amount of money, which one can I use to push towards us getting more money into sales in the ebook? So whichever one is not that, I'm turning that one off. Whether it's
we
both
want
of us,
these things to be an ecosystem, essentially. Like, we need the businesses to work together in some capacity, if possible.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Obviously, we know some things don't connect if it's, doesn't make sense. But if possible, how can we have them connect? So like you said, you don't start something new. We just going all in a different way for each thing.
Exactly. And then last but not least, they said,
we're about to do coaching,
etc. Now that etc. No. We got to fall back. Y'all, listen. What we do is we always send them the episode to listen to as well, and watch it on YouTube. So if they want to, this allows us to give them full commentary, full explanation versus sending a short email. Because who the hell wants to type out 1,000 sentences if I can just send you a video? And if you're taking our advice seriously, you would sit there and watch it and take it in. You can see our facial expressions, hear our tonality, and we're talking directly to you. But we're also talking to a lot of people as well.
What's his name again? Oh, John.
So, John, if you and your wife are doing all of this thing, and it says coaching, etc. I don't
What's
know
the etc.?
That etc. is what scares me. It sounds like there is some focus here that is being lacked. There's a lack of focus at some point here that we need to tone back in. If we got the ebook and we got the podcast and we got the coaching.
We got 2 podcasts.
One of those podcasts need to go. Definitely. And then
we have to hear further as to what they may each serve a purpose in a different way.
I don't care.
No, it does matter, because the podcast maybe with John and Sarah, that's what we're going to call his wife. The podcast with John and Sarah could be a way that they connect in their relationship, a way that they help to grow. The podcast with the other person could be the moneymaker, or it could be a way for her to just have an outlet and not do everything with the spouse. We don't know. So I think it's important to know what each of them are serving. We don't have that answer here, but I think that's important as well before you just say cut one of them. What is the purpose of it? For example, it's important, let me finish, because like when we were paying off debt, And when we moved down to Dallas, I've been working from home since then, so the past 7 years. We didn't know anybody here. We were paying off debt. He's working at the gym. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do? How am I even going to get out of this house? So I'm like, I want to work at the gym. One, it's free. I work out, and that's fine. And I'm a people person, so now I could be around people. So that was another thing, another outlet per se to help us. Did I need that $9 an hour? Not necessarily, but it helped us to pay off debt, whatever. So it served a purpose. We don't know what the purpose is serving for either of the podcasts.
I'm cutting one of those podcasts. So y'all need to decide.
After all that, we're going to see cutting.
No. Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying, okay, if it does serve, if both of them serve a purpose, whichever one is less purposeful needs to go. And then the coaching, if that's aligned with the eBooks and the podcast,
then
you got something going there.
What's the et cetera? We don't know, so we can't stay on that.
That et cetera, that scares me because that shows me that there are some more things. You might be out there doing Turo. You might be out there doing Amazon FBA. You might out there doing, I don't know, a bunch of side missions in life right now that you need to just focus on what's working. And if none of those things are working, then we can talk about something.
So then the question said, would you advise starting the cleaning business while doing all these other things? Will it be too much or it takes minimal effort? So your thought is, no, don't start the business right now. You got a lot going on. That's your thought.
So I don't know if that's a yes or no question.
It is. And then I'll get to the second part.
Okay. So I would say no. Don't start it. No, I'm saying no, don't start it.
Yeah, they shouldn't start it.
Should not start the cleaning business.
Should not start the cleaning business.
This is should not start the cleaning business based off of everything I've seen.
Susie Orman. That's what it reminded you of, right?
Susie Orman, yeah.
She used to have a show on, I don't know, we used to watch it on Friday or Saturday night.
Or MSNBC.
Was it that? Anyway, people will call in and give all their expenses of things they can afford and say, hey, I want to get this. Can I afford it? And she'll break it down and tell them yes or no. Yeah, but this is not that, but in a way. Will it be too much or it takes minimal effort? So I want to talk about that part. Yeah, that's the part that I wanted to talk about.
Not even just this business, any business.
Yeah, it's going to be too much. I don't know. I know you guys spoke about the ebook and the podcast. I don't know what other businesses or if you guys had a business in this capacity before or what that looks like. This was our first business, had no idea, cleaning business, had no idea what we were doing, but kind of jumped in. Knowing what we know now, it's not minimal effort. It's minimal because you're not doing the cleaning, right? I would say in that capacity, yes. It's
minimal physical labor.
Minimal physical labor. However, it could be mentally taxing. Sometimes at the beginning, especially taking things on and we're like, why are we arguing? This got to do with another client. Mm-hmm. So this could be mentally taxing on you. And financially, depending on how quickly you want to grow the business, do you have the finances for that as well? So I don't want to say minimal effort. At the beginning, specifically, 15 to 20 hours committed to the business a week and then continuing to grow from there. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. What would you say about the too much or takes minimal effort part?
So they give us some more. I realized they give us some more.
They
context.
did. We didn't get there yet.
So we're breaking down each response based off of each question that they're asking because we didn't want to give one long response. So with any business you start, you should always think that it's going to take maximal effort in order to get the result the desired result you are looking for. Do not start anything thinking that it will take minimal effort. Everything that you start, your mentality should be that it's going to require the maximal effort in order to achieve your desired result, no matter what it is. Now, that maximal effort doesn't mean it's going to be physically taxing. It could be mentally taxing. It could be spiritually taxing. It could be monetarily taxing.
Emotionally.
So you think about it from that aspect. Think about, I'm going to have to put in the most amount of work possible to get that result I'm looking for. If that result is $100K a year, $100K a month, $100K a day, it's going to be taxing. Think about it like that. No matter what it is, don't come in here thinking that's going to be, I don't have to do anything. If we ever gave you that inclination that it felt like we do nothing, think about it like this. We just celebrated our 6th year in the cleaning business. We've been doing this for 6 years. We had the idea about 6.5 years ago. We've gotten to the point where we've hired an operations manager. We got customer service agents. We got remote virtual assistants as well. We have people managing most of the business. Where we come in and we have conversations with them. But that doesn't happen on month one, day one, year one. It took us 5 years to get there. Or 4.5 years to get there. Almost 5. So now we're at the point where you're seeing us do the podcast. You're seeing us do the eBooks or the consulting or the coaching and all of that stuff. When we first started, we were only doing the cleaning business. And we said that's going to be the goal. That's going to be the end result of us getting here. So don't compare our year 6 to your year 1. Or don't compare anyone's year 2 or 3 or 4 to your year 1. because you will be gravely mistaken.
While you were talking, I'm like, we should have a coaching on business and marriage. Okay. He's like, what?
No, it's not. Listen,
so that's the answer for that part. Now, they went on to ask further questions.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No,
okay. They went on to ask further questions, so we want to make sure to touch on that. But that was the first part. So other things said. Also, another thing I love about you guys is your debt-free journey. Sometimes I wonder, should I shut down everything, just work to pay off debt, then get back to podcasts and other businesses? Because while doing all these things, I'm stacking up debt, but haven't really made much income yet. Kind of touched on what you asked. Paying off the debt could take years, and I feel like we would miss our window of opportunity. What would you advise in this situation? I got to read the rest of this, though. Just to add context, I'm the sole breadwinner. John is the sole breadwinner. We have 4 kids. I'm in sales and gross $190K annually. The only income Sarah makes is some cheer music. So she does this on the side from royalty, etc. So she makes around $5K annually. She's also a Christian hip hop artist, but has that on pause to lean into podcasting and speaking. I know this is a long message with a multitude of detail, but would love your opinion. Hope to hear from you. Blessings, John. Okay, great email.
And we appreciate the context, and we're happy that we answered that first part because it gave you context you gave you a direct answer to that part.
Yeah.
And now we give you a direct answer to the second part. So now John and Sarah are wondering if they should shut it all down. eBooks, podcasts, the etc. coaching, shut it down and just focus on debt. So my question is going to be, what do you think my question is? How much debt? The amount of debt is actually important.
I think the amount of debt is important to know. If we're talking $40,000, I wouldn't shut anything down. If we're talking $300,000, I'll consider something else, not including the mortgage, of course, which I don't know if you have a mortgage or not. I think it depends on the amount of debt to decide if to shut it down. I see here where he spoke about we don't want to miss our window of opportunity, which I assume you mean like right now things are hot. You know, right now, maybe you're getting people into the coaching. Maybe right now people are buying the eBooks. Maybe right now you're consistent with the podcast and you don't want to stop that to pay off the debt. But I want to know how much debt. And then my other question is, can we not do some of this simultaneously? This one goes back to the thought process of Dave, which he would say, if I'm not mistaken, shut it all down and just focus on
Dave and
debt.
Tony is the same man, yo. Dave Ramsey and Uncle Tone, whatever you want to call me.
I feel like he would say shut it all down and focus on the debt. But yeah, then I'm like, well, if some of it is bringing you in money, but you also said in here that it actually the businesses are making you stack up on debt. So it ain't bringing you money.
So you are losing money due to business.
So you are losing money.
We're going back. Listen.
It's a little tricky for me.
I'm gonna give y'all the Tone Ramsey answer.
Your thought, okay.
Tone Ramsey is going to tell you the quickest way to pay off debt is to make more money.
Yeah.
And if you want to take longer to pay off debt, go further in debt, which was what you guys are doing. You literally said to us,
you said it.
You are going backwards. You haven't made much money, and the business is actually taking up more debt than bringing in income. So you guys are the definition of hustling backwards is when you are trying to move forward and you're doing things that's taking you backwards. The definition of hustling backwards is that you're trying to pay off debt and you continue swiping your credit cards. That's the definition of hustling backwards. And you guys are moving backwards and not moving forwards the way you want to go. Yes, momentum is great. But in order to have momentum, you should be seeing the increase in your income along the way alongside that momentum. So in my eyes, you mentioned that you wanted the window of opportunity. But it doesn't seem like the opportunity is there if you're not progressing forward in your family, in your life financially. So I'm telling you, personally, Tone Ramsey is telling you can we shut down anything that is not producing income today?
Yeah, because
whether that's the podcast, whether that's the eBooks, whether that's the coaching. Now, I don't see how the eBooks and coaching is not making you money. So those things
we're re-releasing the eBook, so we don't know what it did before and what the hope is for this time. What's the marketing efforts behind that and things like that.
But even if the ebook is not generating thousands of dollars, if it's generating you a couple $100s and it's just paying off some light bill, like our goal when we first started paying off our debt was just to pay off a light bill, phone bill with just our ebooks. Like when we first started, we released our first ebook in 2019, maybe. Was it 2019, 2018?
Probably 18.
18.
Yeah.
Right? And it was just like making like $50 a month. And we just said, all right, this is enough to pay a phone. Now it sounds crazy to think about it, but it was just to pay a phone bill, just to pay a light bill. And that was just the goal of us releasing that ebook. But if you're saying that can make you some money, I'm sticking with that, and I'm sticking with the coaching.
But then also, it said that she is a Christian hip-hop artist. Cyrus is a Christian hip-hop artist, but that's on pause to lean into podcasting and speaking. I don't know why we can't do both. Why it got to be on pause? Is it just because of the time capacity?
Commitment.
Now I understand there's 4 kids. I'm about to say, now I understand 4 kids is different from none or one. I completely understand that. But do we feel like the Christian hip hop is bringing us more money than?
No, it says 5K right here.
But she put it on hold. If she continues with it, can she make more money? That's what I'm saying. Versus going into the podcasting and speaking, let's raise our income, and then maybe the speaking and stuff can come along eventually. But I'm thinking maybe we don't need to have the hip hop artists on pause. Maybe that can make us some money.
Yeah, but I think when you do something like that, that's gonna take time to build up. They need money today. So if speaking has been. So it says, but that's been on pause to lean into podcasting and speaking. So lean into it means that it's not started up.
Yeah.
So that means that we're going to take some time and effort to build those things up. So the thing that seems like was making money at one point was the eBooks. Coaching is going to be brand new. So you have to build that up. You're making $190,000 a year.
Which is a good amount.
A
great salary.
It usually takes 2 people to make that amount. You guys got 4 kids. I don't know what that mortgage is, but it's probably something nuts if you're making 190 because you probably went crazy when you got that raise or promotion or that job. I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great salary, but with 4 kids, I don't know how far that stretches. That's my thought as well.
Yeah, but
So
it's only one income too. So
right.
For the wife, I would say if there is the ability to make money outside the home in addition to those 4 kids, I think the podcasting is going to stop because the podcasting is not going to bring in any money anytime soon. No. Unless you are very intentional about that.
And then when it starts to bring in money, it's not like it's raining, you know what I mean? Like raining income in, right?
I think speaking could be something that would be lucrative.
That is definitely.
I would lean into that. A little bit more, lean into the eBooks, the coaching.
So where we're at with it is that they're gonna do the speaking, the coaching, and the ebook, but we're dropping both podcasts. You're thinking?
I think
if it's taking up space and time.
I think I'm dropping the podcast and focusing on paying down that debt. And I'm not starting a cleaning business throughout all of this. Absolutely not.
You started a cleaning business through it, but we didn't have all this going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and another thing he said was, I feel like paying off debt could take years. So I want to focus on that part for a second. It says paying off debt could take years. And I feel like we would miss out window of opportunity. So windows of opportunity and paying off debt. So another thing that Dave Ramsey says is that when you focus on paying off debt, it shouldn't take 5, 10, 15 years. The goal is really to be less than like 2 to 3, maybe 4, 5 years max. But we end up going into that 3, 4, 5 years when we lose that momentum. So that's where the real momentum comes into play. Like when we said we was trying to pay off our debt, we said if we could do this within 2 to 3 years, we'll be good. But once it goes beyond that, we're just going to be dragging it along.
Yeah. I can see that side of it. I think a big factor that's missing, and if we would have thought about it, would have asked how much debt it is. How much debt is it? To really know. Then that matters. I think that matters on if you go all in or if you don't, right? Obviously not counting the mortgage.
I think anything under, so let's say under 100K or above 100K.
Okay.
Mortgage debt aside. So under 100K, would your advice be different?
Are we thinking 90 or 40?
So let's go
it
under.
Doesn't matter.
Let's go under 50, above
under 50, it may be different.
So under 50 or above 50?
Above 50, I would say to consider doing the things that we're speaking about. So yeah, you can take that. You know your debt number, John and Sarah. So if it's above 50, I would say goodbye to the podcast. And the reason I'm saying goodbye to those, at the beginning, I was fighting for it, right? But I'm saying goodbye to it because I understand the time commitment of it, the topics, the editing, all that type of stuff, and even just showing up. And if that's taking too much time where you can do something that would actually make you money, then I'm going to say go that route. And which is...
Whether that's putting them...
Whether that's energy into the coaching, energy into the music, or speaking on places, or the ebook. That would be my thing. What are the marketing efforts behind the ebook? Maybe that's during that time instead of podcast, I'm doing content for the ebook, for the coaching, whatever the case may be, because you can't just be like, all right, I got an ebook, guys. Right? You have to market it in some capacity. So that's why I would eliminate those 2 podcasts because of the time commitment of it. If the debt is over 50K. If it's under 50K, then I don't know. But he did say it'll take years. So it probably is a higher number than we're kind of guessing.
So you don't want your debt freedom journey to take too long because you start losing momentum and you start getting, you're no longer excited about the journey. So some things that I would say, we could go into some things that we would do. Let's say it does take them years. Let's say 3 to 5 years, right? So now you and if you follow the baby steps, and I'm gonna go reiterate that one more time because I think it is important to at least get that basis down. So you have your emergency fund. Now, whatever your emergency fund is as a family, you guys decide that. Like I said, we're gonna play this loosely for you guys. So you start paying off all debt. So you do your debt snowball method. I highly recommend the debt snowball method because it allows you to get quick wins in. So there's a debt snowball and there's a debt avalanche. Debt avalanche goes from usually the highest to smallest based on interest rate. So now you're killing the debt with the highest interest rate or the largest debt first. So you're kind of going from up down. That's what the avalanche is. You create the small snowball at the top. It gets larger and larger as it goes down. But the debt snowball is you go from smallest to largest. So now you're going from whatever your smallest debt is, maybe a credit card, no matter the interest rate as well. So you're going from smallest to largest, and you line them up, and you start attacking them based off of that. So you go from your credit card debt to damn near whatever your student loan or your car, whatever it is, the highest amount of debt. And that allows you guys to start getting some quick wins. What else would you add to that outside of the baby steps? So some things that keep them motivated during that journey.
Budgeting.
Budgeting is going to be super important.
That's going to be a game changer. For us, budgeting is what helped us to pay off debt, helped us to stay on track, just to know where the money is going. I know that you're like, well, I'm paying my bills on time. I know this costs this, but writing it down, seeing exactly like, well, after you pay your bills, you usually have $1,000 left over, or you usually have $75 left over. What are you doing with that? I think it's really important. And then the other thing is just having it visually. At this point, I'm sure there is like budget scratch-offs, if you will, or some type of something that's visual that you can scratch off as you pay off your debt. If not, we probably should make one. But we would keep one on our fridge that we would look at every single day for us to see where we are. Okay, we started at 114. Right now, we have $50,000 left. Wow, now we got 30,000. And just seeing that, treating it as a game and keeping it visual was very helpful, similar to having your budget so that you know where everything is at. Those would be my key things if you guys decide to go into that debt-free journey. But then also, I got to find our episode number that we did. I think that is another one that you should listen to.
And then I would also add, last but not least, celebrate your wins as you're going through this journey. So if you pay off your first $5,000, celebrate that win. Go out to eat, have fun. Don't get crazy. Don't go out and buy red bottom shoes after you just paid off $5,000 in debt, because that doesn't make sense, obviously.
You ain't make a dent yet.
You ain't making dent yet, and whatever your debt is. So celebrate your wins as you're going through this journey so that you can know, all right, every time we hit a $5,000 milestone, you start celebrating 10s, the 15s, whatever it is, you guys go out as a family. And you got 4 kids, so can they be a part of this journey as well? Can they do chores around the house? Can they do dishes? Can they help you guys save some time? I would love to have Alani part of like our financial freedom journey, but she was just too young. I don't know how old your kids are.
She's just too young.
Can they go out and mow some lawns? Can they go out and then make it fun for the family? That's something I would definitely do. Have Alani start mowing some lawns, start plowing some driveways or something.
What the hell?
Yeah, have her start creating some income. So those are some things I would definitely have you guys do. And then once you pay off your debt, as you go through that journey, you'll be able to decide, all right, what my next step is, whether that's starting another business, whether that's starting a podcast up. And you can even use the podcast, if you guys decide to keep the podcast, use this as a way to document your journey as well.
Episode 18. We spoke about paying off debt, 114,000 in 23 months.
There's
a lot of other episodes talking about money, our relationship to money, making $9 an hour to achieve our goals, etc. But episode 18 specifically touches on what we did in the details and everything that we did throughout our process to pay off our debt. But I want to thank John and Sarah for being so vulnerable to be able to ask that question and letting us share it with our community. If you have more suggestions for them, go ahead and write it on the comments in YouTube. They'll be able to check it out. We'll be sending the episode to them. But other than that, thank you for showing up for another week of More Than a Side Hustle podcast. Be sure to subscribe, share, like, comments, all of the above, and thanks for coming back every week.
If you guys could do one thing, could you just share this episode with just one person? That's how we're able to grow the show. That's how we're able to meet more people. That's how we're able to connect. We don't have any sponsorship. We don't have any ad slots. This is just what we do. So you guys want to help us help more people, just share this one person. Hey, check out the Hard Dogs. They're a dope couple, and we would greatly appreciate it. And if you have a question that you want us to answer live on the podcast, email us at info@thehartrimony. That's spelled TheHartrimony.com. info@theheartrimony.com. Information will be in the show notes, and just choose a question. We'll answer it live. We'll try to dedicate an episode to you, and if we can't, we might just answer it throughout one of our episodes. See you guys next week. Peace.
Bye.